Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. It's been a while since I've done one of these news updates. Today is Tuesday the 2nd of August 2021. There's been quite a lot going on, so I just thought I'd give you a very quick update. First of all, I've been away for a week. It was a family holiday. I did take my GS with me, which was quite fun to ride it a bit of distance, especially since all the lockdowns we've had. I did get to come back via London, so got to do some riding around the Surrey Hills and the South Downs of England. I got to come home yesterday, which was Sunday, and I went via a place called Caffeine and Machine in the Cotswolds, which is a sort of nice farming part of the UK. If any people have been following Clarkson's farm on Amazon, it's very close to where that is. While I was there, I did think it's a bit like Fast and the Furious, but for the UK, we've definitely got the cars. What we're missing is just everything else. But yeah, it was a cool place to visit and a nice stop off on the way home. I did have one more stop before I got back, and that was at a place called Hinckley, which some of you might know is where the Triumph factory is here in the UK. So it really is an amazing place. They do factory tours. It was a Sunday afternoon, so all of that side was closed up, but I did get to use the cafe, and I had a quick look around the museum, which I have seen before. If you're ever passing, it really is worth a look. It's free to go in. There's parking out front. You don't need to be a Triumph customer to go in and do that. I did park my BMW out the front and nobody seemed to mind too much. They do have a few cool new things which have changed since I was last there. One of which is they've got a few displays up for film bikes. So they have the Triumph 1200 XE that was used for the new James Bond film that's coming out. They also had the bike that Idris Elba rode in Hobbs and Shaw, which is very silly. It is a modified Speed Triple 1050 and they had that on display. They also had a bike which Guy Martin used to try and recreate the jump that Steve McQueen did in The Great Escape. All that's really cool. They've got a big display of Triumph Daytonas, everything from the early models through to the latest Moto 2 replicas. So yeah, it's just a fabulous place. If you're ever passing, it's near Leicester in the UK. It's definitely worth a look. I put a few pictures up on my Instagram if you want to see what that was like. The next thing I'd like to talk about is tours. In the last video, I mentioned that my Romania tour in July and August was cancelled, which is why I'm here now instead of being halfway across Europe. Unfortunately, my Morocco tour in October has also been cancelled because of COVID, but it looks like that will move to next year as well. Because I'm not doing those two tours this year, instead I'm going to be taking a group, I think we're quite a big group, I think we're up to 22 or even 24 people now, to Ireland in September. Now that's with Magellan Motorcycle Tours as well. Really looking forward to it, just to be able to get out and do a motorcycle tour, because the last one I did was in 2019. Last year was a write-off because of COVID. This year was looking like it was going to be the same, so it will be good to get away, get some miles in and just see a new part of the world. So I won't be doing daily videos from that, but I will try and put together a couple of videos for those of you who have maybe been thinking about Ireland as a riding destination but have never made it that far. So I'll be going on that. I'll be taking my 1250 GS. Mrs. Peak Motorcycles will be coming along as well, and she'll be terrorising the quiet Irish countryside with the Termi pipes on her Ducati Scrambler 800. So yeah, that'll be fun just to get out and give the bikes a proper run. The next thing I'd like to talk about is my Honda CRF300 Rally. So that's the bike I think that most people come to this channel for. So I've done quite a lot to it. I think I am running out of things to do, but there are still a few things that are coming along. So one of them is the bash guard. The CRF300 Rally comes with its own bash guard, which is okay. I've used mine like that for about 700 or 800 miles. When I took it off, I did see some pretty big scratches in the bottom, and I had replaced it with an alloy bash guard, one of the Yamaha ones that came from Thailand. So I've been in touch with a UK company called Kodama Composites. Now they make some pretty amazing looking Kevlar and aramid carbon fibre body protection for motorcycles. They did a add-on bash guard for the CRF250 Rally, which went on top of the existing guard and just provided a huge amount of extra protection. They are looking to do one for the CRF300 Rally, and this is their early stage prototype. I don't know if you can see that, but it's basically a big carbon fibre guard. It actually mounts on the other side to the existing Honda bash plate. It's just really sturdy. So they've sent me this. They've asked me if I can fit this to my bike, just take some pictures, see what it looks like, and then this is an early stage prototype. The final one will look very different to this. But yeah, that is a serious piece of kit. So yeah, really looking forward to being able to see what the final outcome looks like, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to put that on instead of the Yamaha one on my bike. They just look really, really strong. They're super light. They're smooth on the bottom. It looks like they'll just bounce over rocks if you did hit anything. Kodama Composites, I'll put a link to their website in the description for this video, but if you want to look them up, it looks like they've got some pretty cool stuff, and their products for the Honda CRF300 Rally should be coming out in the next weeks and months. I also have a couple of videos to do on my Enduristan luggage. So if you'd seen my video I did about the Blizzard XL panniers that I had installed on the bike, I actually decided those were a bit too big, so I've swapped those over for the large panniers The XL ones went on eBay, and I think they're probably doing someone some good somewhere around the world right now. The large panniers that I have, they're just that little bit shorter. They're actually the same size when you look at it from the side as the smallest and the mediums. They're just a bit thicker. The extra larges did just come down that bit further. And I felt they looked a little bit too big on my CRF300 Rally. They've slightly changed how they fit across the seat on the 2021 bags, so I'll do a video about that and the bags. I've also got some of their Tornado 2 dry bags, so these are like hold-alls, sort of stitched webbing on them, which is really easy to attach to the bike. If anyone had seen my pictures from the ABR festival, when I rode my bike back from there, I had two of these stacked one on top of each other. They're secured in place using the Enduristan rock straps, which are like a very tough webbing with a very, very short and strong section of bungee. So you can get them really tight, but they don't stretch in the same way that just normal bungee straps do. Great for extra luggage space. I found I could put those one on top of the other. They survived some motorway journeys and they just didn't move at all. So if you're like me and ballet really isn't your thing, if anyone's seen me try to get on a heavily loaded CRF300 Rally with the high new suspension and the pillion seat completely covered with luggage, I mean, it really is funny to watch. I mean, really funny. For everybody except for me. Being able to keep the seats completely clear does mean it's much easier for me to get on and off the bike. Less entertainment for everyone else, but hey, you know, it's tough times. Finally, for the CRF300, I do have a couple of riding videos that I want to do. I'd like to get out and ride a bit more of the Trans-Euro Trail. I haven't done a great deal of that lately just because I've been busy with other things, but there's a few sections which are now open, particularly where there'd been the landslide at Abney, not far from here. If you've seen my TET 02 video, it's basically where that stopped. We got to a village, the Trans-Euro Trail carries on, but we had to go the other way and come back a long way round. So that roadworks has now been completed, the road is back open, so I should be able to ride the section from west to east, starting in Hope, and I'll see how far I get. And as soon as I've done that, I'll put that video up. I think it'll be a really good test to see how the bike is performing, particularly with the suspension. I've done some road riding, I've done some short off-road sections, but to be able to do a good section of the TET with my new suspension should be really fun. The next thing I'd like to talk about is I've been doing a bit of work with a company called Do More Designs, who I'd worked with before for a previous business. So they run a sort of logo design competition or a branding design competition where they get customers to submit a brief and then they have design students submit ideas back. So you might have noticed that a few weeks ago the logo on my channel got updated to something that looks a lot like this. I don't know anything about graphic design, I don't know anything about branding or logos, none of that is really my sort of thing. I showed them what I had before, which was a selfie taken at some traffic lights while on holiday in Spain a few years ago. It lasted okay, but I thought that now that I'm getting a few more watchers on here, that I'd try and get something a bit more professional done. I think they did a great job. I didn't really know what to go for. I know some people, when they saw the new logo, they did say that they thought it wasn't me. I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what is me when it comes to logo or what isn't me. Anyway, it's there now. It will do for a while, and I think it'll serve the purpose. It certainly looks better than what I had before. I've had a few shirts made up. I'm really just trying a few things at the moment to seeing what looks okay on the different colours. In the unlikely event that anybody would be interested in any Peak Motorcycles merch, it will probably have something like this on it, either big, small, front, back. I've also got the rights to the font to use for this sort of writing. If anyone would be interested in anything like that, please let me know. I wouldn't be surprised if you're not. I wasn't particularly. YouTube keeps sending me things saying that merch is a really important thing. See how it goes. If anyone would like a Peak Motorcycles riding shirt, I've got these sort of wicking layers. They do them in short sleeve and long sleeve, and also just regular t-shirts or anything else. Let me know. Maybe I'll order a few and then do them as giveaways for various things on the channel. The next thing I'd like to talk about is my Ducati Scrambler 800. So you might have seen that in the garage in the background when I've been doing my other videos. So it's not had a lot of love lately. What I've noticed when I've been riding it recently, the suspension is really soft. There's very little damping on it. Mine's a 2015 model, hasn't really been upgraded since I got it. And now that I've done the suspension on my CRF300 and the big piston forks on my CB 1000R and the electronic suspension on my BMW, really show the Ducati for what is essentially quite basic suspension. So I'm not going to quite do the same as what I've done to the CRF300, but I do have a new Öhlins spring and some heavier Öhlins oil to go in the forks. So I'll do a video about that. Even if you don't have a Ducati Scrambler, I think that'll still be relevant for people who are doing the YSS upgrade to their CRF300Ls and rallies. The other thing I have is I have an Öhlins rear shock to go on it. I did look at other brands as well, but it's a yellow bike and I quite like the yellow spring. Yeah, I know that's no reason, but the Öhlins stuff is good stuff, so I'm sure that will be a big improvement. The next thing I'd like to talk about is my brother-in-law. You probably don't know him. His name is Andy. He lives in Switzerland, in Lucerne. He's a top bloke, and he's been riding motorbikes for most of his life. He's done some really amazing things, crossing continents on his DR650 and his old Africa Twin. He's now, settled down with his family. Doesn't ride as much as he would like, but he's been running a project for the last few years where he's been at home, has been changing a Yamaha RS125 over to be an electric bike. Now, I know electric bikes are kind of becoming a thing, and there's lots of kits and things you can buy, but he's done so much of this himself. He built his own battery pack. He even made a spot welder to assemble the battery pack from an old microwave, and he got all of that done. And the bike, when it was finished, looked amazing. Went really well. The problem he had was that in order to get it road legal in Switzerland, there was a number of hoops he had to jump through, some of which were on fire. So much paperwork, so much admin, so much testing to get all of that done. Anyway, now all of that is done and dusted. He's got a number plate on it and it's all ready to go. So this is a video to a test ride that a YouTuber did in Switzerland with him, where they compared it against the latest and greatest from Energica. Not exactly the fairest comparison, but if you're running around in a town, then I'd almost rather be on the RS125. So for any of you who do restore old bikes, maybe you've got an old bike where everything is there except for the engine, and you can't find a new engine, and you're just wondering what else you could do. Maybe there is an electric modification in your future. I know that it's never going to be quite the same as the sound of an old bike when it's fully restored back to how it used to be. But times are changing, and maybe electric bikes are the future. Who knows? Anyway, check out the video. Andy's got his own website channel as well, where he talks about a few of the things he did to build the bike. Most of it is in English, a few bits are in Swiss German. It's a really interesting project, and the end result looks amazing. I'd now like to talk about a new bike. So not a new bike for me, but a new bike in the news. So I think there's going to be a lot of new bike announcements coming at the bike shows. For example, EICMA, which I think is taking place in November this year. There they'll be announcing all the new 2022 models that haven't yet broken cover. But this week, Aprilia announced their new Tuareg 660. So this is a bike based on the same platform as their RS660 sports bike and their Tuono 660 Naked. It's a great engine. The RS and the Tuono just look brilliant. I saw them at EICMA in 2019, and yeah, they're just really, really nice bikes. They're sort of reinventing the fact that you don't need to have 1,000 cc's to go anywhere fast. Anyway, they've now taken that engine and they've put it into a dual sport sort of mid-size adventure bike frame. Looks very similar to the Tenere 700. I'm sure that's not coincidental. The paint job on it looks a little bit Africa Twin with the red, white and blue, but then I guess they borrowed it from the Aprilias of the 1980s. I think their 600 looked very similar. So yeah, really interesting looking bike. I think for me it's going to be where it's priced, because when you compare it next to the Tenere 700, it makes, I think, 8 horsepower more, so it's 80 instead of 72, slightly more torque, 70 Newton meters instead of 68. It's also a little bit heavier, but for some reason they keep quoting dry weights. I think the Tenere 700 is about 180 kilos dry, and the Aprilia is going to be 187 kilos dry. If anybody out there knows how you can ride a dry motorcycle, I'd be really interested in speaking to you. I mean, I think for all these bikes, I'm pretty sure you have to put oil in them. I'm pretty sure you have to fill them up with petrol before they'll go anywhere. So wet weights for a practical comparison are a lot more useful. I don't know what these will be exactly. I think for the Tenere 700, it's about 205 kilos. So it's hardly light, but it's light-ish. I think for the Aprilia, it will be maybe 10 kilos heavier, something like that, 8 kilos heavier. So somewhere around the 215, something like that. I can't do the conversion to pounds in my head, but I'm sure someone will and tell me. So yeah, really interesting looking bike. So I think where it does differ from the Tenere 700 is with all the electronics that they put on it. So the Tenere 700 is kind of basic. Nothing wrong with that. It's a brilliant bike. I've test ridden one on a really cold day and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just such an easy bike to ride. However, it doesn't have any riding modes. Some people might say that with that amount of power you don't need them. The Aprilia has them. It's got 4 riding modes. 2 of those are customizable. It also has traction control. It has switchable ABS front and back. It has a very fancy 5-inch TFT, which I think will be removable. It also has fully adjustable front and rear suspension. And I think certainly the suspension I found was a weakness on the Tenere 700. I know a lot of companies, including the likes of Rally Raid, do upgrades for the bike to make the Tenere 700 more capable off-road. But if Aprilia can produce a bike that comes out at a similar or maybe a slightly higher price point that already has that electronics package and adjustable suspension, then I think they might be onto a winner. What I mentioned earlier that I thought the price would be key is that if it's slightly more than the Tenere 700, then I think that has a lot of interest. If it's a lot more than that, then I think they risk running into KTM 890 territory, which I think is a different proposition altogether, because I think that KTM 890 engine is brilliant, and I think for a bike like that, that's almost the class above. I think that's up there with the Triumph Tiger 900. I mean, that's sort of the 90-100 horsepower sort of category. Anyway, I think the bike looks really good. I'll put a link to it if you haven't seen the videos already, but it has been plastered all over the internet, at least to the person-specific ads that seem to be targeting me on the internet. The last thing before I finish is I'm going to do a series of videos about low bikes. Now, this might sound like a slightly odd thing. I'm about 6'1", which is about 1.85 m. Mrs. Peak Motorcycles is 5'3", which is about 1.60 m. I can ride pretty much anything and get my feet on the ground. She can ride very few bikes where she feels safe enough to be on them. We did do a walk around the Birmingham bike show in the UK in 2015, looked at pretty much every new bike that was out, and the only two that she felt really comfortable on were the Ducati Scrambler 800, which we ended up buying, and the Triumph Bonneville 800. Now, one option is just looking at bikes that have a low seat height as they come. The other is lowering. I'm going to do a series of videos on lowering the bikes that I have access to, and then I'm going to try and seek out some other low bikes. So first of all, I'll talk through what you can do to lower them, and then I will ask my dear wife to assist me by actually sitting on them and hopefully giving you an idea about what these bikes are like for shorter riders. What I haven't come up with yet is a catchy sounding title for this series of videos, so if you have any ideas about that, please let me know. Maybe I'll run a poll for the ideas that come through. I do understand the risks about asking the internet for naming things. If anyone's ever heard of Boaty McBoatface, yeah, I'm kind of expecting something like that, but hey, you never know. If you don't ask, you don't get. So if anyone has good ideas for a name, please let me know. I do have a few ideas already about what I'm going to do in terms of the lowering videos. So one will be for the Ducati Scrambler. We're going to back the preload off all the way on the New Öhlins rear shock. I think I can drop the forks maybe 5 to 10 millimeters at the front, and we've got a scooped out low seat on the bike as well. So hopefully I think that will be a useful starting point. After that, I think I'd like to show people just how low the R1250 GS can go. I mean, it's a big bike. It's 250 something kilos. Having said that, when you set the BMW electronic suspension to low, it does go surprisingly low. The seat as well is also adjustable, both front and back, where you can drop the front of the seat or drop the back of the seat. So I think to put that on its lowest setting, and then to see just how low that can be, that might be of interest to people. And of course the CRF300L, because that's really the only thing that people watch on my channel. This is a Kuba link. So this is a suspension lowering link that you basically replace the one that's on the bike with one of these. They're quite fancy. They've got little roller bearings inside them, which you can't see, but when I do the video for that, you'll see it. So yeah, I'm going to put that on my CRF300L and just see how low I can make that. Now I know with my bike, it's always going to be a bit higher because I've had the new suspension on it, so I don't have that massive amount of static sag that the stock suspension has, but nevertheless it'll be interesting to see whether that does do the full 40 millimeters. It won't be for me, but it would mean that Mrs. Peak Motorcycles can have a go at riding it. I think it still might be a little bit high, but I'm expecting that Seat Concepts or others will come out with a low seat for the CRF300L and Rally in the near future. So that's it. I think that's the end of this news update. I'm sorry I've gone on for quite a while. I will try and do these more often just so I don't have so much stuff saved up. But yeah, hope this has been interesting and useful. If it has, please, actually, you know what? I mean, subscribe if you want to, don't subscribe if you don't. Just passed the 2,000 subscriber milestone last week, which for me is just amazing. I really appreciate the support for everybody that watches these videos. So if you don't subscribe already and you wouldn't mind subscribing and you wouldn't hate it and it won't be such a bind, you know, just click that button. It all helps to feed the algorithm, and that's all very much appreciated. Otherwise, just thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time when I'm in the garage or out on the road, hopefully doing something far more interesting than just sitting in my office and talking at you. All right, ride safe, and thanks for watching.